The small diner sat at the edge of the city, glowing softly under the flickering neon lights. It was late, and only a few tired faces filled the corner booths. The air smelled of coffee and fried food. The place was nothing special, yet for Daniel, it was home. He had worked here for years, serving people who never remembered his name. For him, life was simple, boring, and without adventure. But that night, everything changed. The door creaked open, and a strange silence fell across the room. A figure stepped inside, small and fragile. Her clothes were torn, her skin pale and marked with faint glowing lines. Her eyes, large and shimmering, caught the light like twin stars. She was not human. Everyone in the diner knew it at once. The few customers turned and whispered. Some laughed nervously, others frowned with disgust. Daniel froze for a moment, his heart beat faster. He had seen aliens before on the news, but never so close, never so vulnerable. She looked lost, afraid, and hungry. She hesitated at the door as if unsure she was allowed inside. Her thin hands shook. One man muttered, "What's she doing here, freak?" Another woman pulled her child closer. A few chuckled cruelly. Their voices cut through the silence like knives. Daniel felt a sting in his chest. He saw her eyes lower, saw her try to shrink into herself, and without thinking, he stepped forward. He picked up a menu and walked toward her. His steps echoed in the quiet room. "Table for one?" he asked gently, his voice calm, though his hands trembled. The alien girl lifted her eyes to him. Shock filled them, as if no one had ever spoken kindly to her before. Slowly, she nodded. Daniel guided her to a booth in the corner, away from the stairs. He placed the menu in front of her, but she only looked at it, confused. Her lips parted and her voice came out soft, broken. No money." Daniel blinked. For a moment he thought about the rules, the manager's orders, the cost, the trouble he could get into. But when he looked at her thin frame, her trembling hands, all those thoughts faded. "Don't worry," he said with a small smile. "Food is on me tonight." Her glowing eyes widened. Her lips trembled as though she wanted to speak but could not find words. She only stared at him as if he were something impossible. Daniel hurried to the kitchen, ignoring the stares of the customers. He prepared a simple meal, bread, soup, and a little meat. When he returned, she was still watching him, unmoving. Her hands shook as she reached for the bowl. She took a slow sip, and tears rolled down her pale cheeks. Daniel sat across from her, whispering so the others could not hear. "You okay?" She nodded quickly, but her tears kept falling. She ate slowly, carefully, as if afraid it might be taken from her. Minutes passed, and the diner seemed to fade away. Daniel saw only her, this fragile being who had walked in from the night. He wondered who she was, where she had come from, and why she looked so broken. When the last bite was gone, she set the spoon down with trembling fingers. She leaned forward, her glowing eyes locked onto his. You do not know what you have done," she whispered. Daniel frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Her gaze darted toward the windows, as if checking the shadows outside. Her voice dropped lower, almost like a warning. "Kindness is never small, not to my kind, not tonight." The words chilled him. He looked around the diner, but no one else seemed to notice. The hum of the neon lights filled the silence. The air felt heavier. Daniel's chest tightened. Something about her words made the hairs on his neck rise. He wanted to ask more, but before he could, a strange sound echoed faintly from outside. A low hum, distant yet unnatural. It was not a car, not a plane. It was something else. The alien girl's eyes widened, her body stiffened. She gripped his hand suddenly, her touch cold but desperate. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Daniel's heart raced. He didn't understand. He was just a simple waiter. But in that moment, he realized his small act of kindness had opened a door to something far greater. And outside the diner, in the shadows of the night, something was already moving closer. Daniel could still feel the alien girl's cold hand clutching his. Her warning echoed in his mind. "They are coming." The words made no sense to him. He was just a waiter, not a soldier, not a hero. Yet the fear in her glowing eyes told him it was real. The low hum outside grew louder, vibrating through the diner's thin walls. The customers whispered nervously. Some thought it was thunder. Others looked toward the windows with unease. But only Daniel saw the girl's trembling hands, her eyes darting like prey, sensing a hunter. She leaned closer, her voice barely a breath. "I must give you something before it is too late." From within the folds of her torn clothing, she pulled out a small object. It was a crystal, no larger than a coin, but it glowed faintly like a living flame trapped inside. Daniel stared at it, confused. What is that? Her hands shook as she placed it in his palm. The moment it touched his skin, warmth rushed through him, followed by a sharp burn. He gasped, looking down to see the crystal sink into his hand as if melting into him. A glowing mark spread across his skin, like fire carving a symbol. The alien girl whispered, "It has chosen you, Daniel J." Barked his hand back, his heart racing. "Chosen me? For what? I don't understand." The girl's voice broke with urgency. "Your kindness has bound you to my fate. It cannot be undone now. You are marked, and they will come for you too." His stomach twisted. He wanted to laugh, to call it nonsense, but the burning mark on his hand was real, and so was the fear in her eyes. Before Daniel could speak again, the diner door opened with a sharp clang. The bell above it rang harshly, and two men in dark suits stepped inside. Their faces were cold, their eyes scanning the room with precision. They moved like predators. One of them flashed a badge. "Federal agency, we are looking for a girl, not from this world. Have you seen anyone unusual tonight?" His voice was stern, practiced. Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. He glanced at the girl, who pressed herself against the booth, trying to hide her glowing eyes. The men's gaze swept over the diner, landing dangerously close. In that moment, Daniel made a choice. It was not brave, not logical, but it was human. He shook his head slowly. "No, sir, haven't seen anyone like that, just regulars tonight." The man narrowed his eyes, studying Daniel for a long, heavy moment. The silence stretched, then he gave a small nod and turned back toward the door. But before leaving, he spoke in a warning tone. "If you see her, you must report it. She is dangerous. She is not what she appears to be." The men left, the bell ringing again. The diner's customers began whispering louder. Some looked at Daniel with suspicion, but no one spoke up. Daniel turned back to the girl. His chest rose and fell quickly. "Dangerous? Why are they calling you that?" Tears glimmered in her glowing eyes. She shook her head. "Because they fear what they do not control. Because I carry something they want. And now, you carry it too." Daniel glanced at the mark still glowing faintly on his hand. His throat felt dry. "This crystal, what does it do?" Her gaze softened, but her voice remained serious. "It is not just a crystal. It is a key. It opens what cannot be opened. It binds what cannot be broken. To my people, it is sacred. To your people, it is dangerous. That is why they will chase us." Daniel swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed down on him. He wanted to walk away, to pretend this was not his problem. But the look in her eyes, the mix of fear and fragile hope, held him still. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why would it choose me, a simple waiter?" Her lips trembled into the smallest of smiles. "Because kindness is rare, even among the stars." The words struck him deeper than he expected. He felt the truth in them. He thought about all the faces he had served over the years, how invisible he felt, how little his life seemed to matter. And yet, here she was, telling him his small act of kindness meant everything. The girl suddenly looked to the window again, her body stiff. "They are not gone. They are only circling. We must leave before they return." Daniel's chest tightened. Leave? He had never left his city, never even thought of running from anything. But the mark on his hand still glowed, and he knew his life would never be the same. He nodded slowly. "All right. Tell me where to go." Her glowing eyes met his, filled with a mix of fear and trust. "Follow me, and whatever happens, do not let go of me." Together, they slipped out of the diner's back door into the night. The hum in the distance grew loud. Air again, shadows shifting above the clouds. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The alley behind the diner was dark and narrow. Trash bins lined the walls, and the air smelled of rain and smoke. Daniel followed closely behind the alien girl, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The mark on his hand glowed faintly beneath his sleeve, a reminder that his life had changed forever. The girl whispered as they moved. "My name is Lyara." Her voice shook but carried strength. "If they find us, they will not stop until one of us is dead." Daniel swallowed. He was just a waiter, not a fighter, not a hero. Yet here he was, running into the night with a strange girl who claimed his kindness had bound them together. Behind them, the The faint hum grew louder. Daniel looked up, and his breath caught. A dark shape hovered above the rooftops, sleek and silent. A small alien craft with glowing engines. Its lights swept across the alley like search beams. "Keep moving," Liara urged. She grabbed his hand, her grip tight. Her skin was cold, but her strength surprising. They dashed through twisting streets, trying to lose the light. Daniel's legs burned. He was no athlete, but adrenaline pushed him forward. He could hear footsteps now. Heavy boots pounding the ground behind them. Not just the ship, but men too. The hunters had arrived. They turned a corner, only to find 3 figures waiting. Tall men dressed in black armor, weapons glowing in their hands. Their faces were hidden behind dark helmets. Liara froze, her breath sharp. Daniel felt panic rise. His instincts screamed to run, but there was no way out. The alley was blocked. The armored men raised their weapons. One of them spoke in a deep mechanical voice. "Hand her over, human. She does not belong to you." Daniel's throat tightened. His body wanted to give up, to let them take her. But when he glanced at Liara, he saw her eyes, wide and desperate. He remembered her tears in the diner, her trembling hands when she ate his food. He could not betray her. "No," he said, surprising even himself. His voice shook, but it carried defiance. "She's with me." The armored men paused for a moment, almost as if amused. Then one stepped forward, weapon humming brighter. But before he could strike, the mark on Daniel's hand flared with sudden light. A wave of energy burst outward, throwing the man back against the wall. Daniel stared at his hand in shock. The symbol glowed like fire, power rushing through him. Liara gasped, "The crystal is awake. It listens to you." The other 2 hunters advanced quickly, firing beams of light. Daniel pulled Liara down behind a dumpster. Sparks flew as the blasts hit metal. His heart pounded. "What do I do?" Liara's voice was urgent. "Think of protection. Think of survival. The crystal will answer." Daniel clenched his glowing hand. Images of shields and walls flashed in his mind. Suddenly, a glowing barrier shimmered around them. The blasts struck it and fizzled out. The hunters shouted in frustration. Daniel was breathing hard, sweat on his face. This isn't possible." Liara's eyes glowed with awe. "It is. You are chosen, I told you. They will fear you now." The hunters regrouped, but the sound of approaching sirens echoed through the streets. Red and blue lights flickered at the alley's edge, local police drawn by the chaos. The armored men exchanged quick glances. Then, without a word, they activated small devices on their belts. In an instant, their bodies shimmered and vanished into thin air. The alien craft above the rooftops pulled away, vanishing into the clouds. Daniel slumped against the wall, his chest heaving, his glowing mark dimmed, leaving only a faint burn on his skin. He whispered, "What just happened to me?" Liara knelt beside him, her hand gentle on his arm. "You survived. That is enough for now." But Daniel shook his head. "No, this is insane. I was serving food an hour ago. Now I'm fighting armored hunters with powers I don't even understand." His voice cracked. "Why me?" Liara's expression softened. Her eyes held sorrow, but also hope. "Because the crystal does not choose by strength or rank. It chooses by heart. You gave kindness when others gave hate. That is why it chose you." Daniel stared at her, struggling to breathe, struggling to believe. He wanted to argue, but deep down, a part of him knew it was true. That moment in the diner had changed everything. The wail of police sirens grew closer. Liara's gaze turned sharp. "We cannot stay here. More will come. We must leave the city." Daniel nodded weakly. He didn't know where they could go. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But when he looked at Liara, he knew one thing. He could not abandon her. Not now. Together, they slipped through the shadows, moving toward the edge of the city. The night air carried a strange energy, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The chase was only beginning, and Daniel, once only a simple waiter, was now caught in a destiny far beyond anything he had ever dreamed. The city was fading behind them. Daniel and Liara moved quickly through the empty industrial district. The streets were quiet, but the night carried danger in every shadow. The hum of alien engines echoed faintly above, reminding them the hunters had not given up. Daniel's legs ached, his breath came hard. He had never run this much in his life, yet he kept going, driven by something he couldn't explain. The glowing mark on his hand pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding him. Liara suddenly pulled him into an abandoned warehouse. Her glowing eyes scanned the dark space. She walked with purpose, as if she knew exactly where to go. Daniel followed, confused but too exhausted to argue. In the center of the warehouse stood something unbelievable. Hidden beneath dusty tarps and crates was a sleek vessel, silver and curved. Its surface shimmered faintly as if alive. Daniel's jaw dropped. "That's a ship." Liara nodded quickly. "It is mine. I came here in it, but it was damaged. I hid it until I could repair it. Now it is our only chance." Daniel stared at her, his voice shaking. "You're saying we're going to fly? Into space? No way, I can't." Liara stepped closer, her eyes steady. "You can. You must. If we stay, you will die. If we leave, you may live." Her words left no room for choice. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands trembled as he helped her uncover the vessel. The ship hummed softly, as though recognizing her touch. The sound of engines roared outside, bright lights flashing through the broken windows. The hunters had found them. Heavy boots pounded the ground, shouts echoed. Liara's voice was sharp now. "Inside, quickly!" Daniel stumbled after her into the ship. The interior glowed with soft blue light, smooth walls with no seams, strange panels that lit under her touch. He had no time to wonder, no time to breathe. The ground shook as weapons fired. Blasts tore into the warehouse walls. Smoke and fire filled the air. Liara sat in the pilot's seat, her hands flying across controls. "Hold on!" she shouted. The ship shuddered to life. The engines roared, glowing brighter and brighter. Daniel grabbed a seat, his knuckles white. The hunters stormed through the warehouse doors, weapons raised. Beams of light streaked toward the ship. Sparks exploded across its hull, but the vessel pushed upward, tearing free from the ground. The force slammed Daniel back into his chair. His stomach twisted. His heart raced. Through the viewport, he saw the city shrinking, the lights fading, the clouds rushing past. The hunter's craft rose after them, dark and fast. Liara's face was tight with focus. Sweat beaded her forehead. "They will not let us go easily." Daniel looked out and saw the enemy ship fire. Beams of energy streaked through the sky. One struck their vessel, shaking it violently. Daniel cried out, "We're hit!" Liara's hands moved quickly, shields holding, but not for long. The glowing mark on Daniel's hand pulsed again. He felt heat rushing through his body, a strange voice whispering in his mind. He placed his palm on the control panel without thinking. The crystal's light spread across the ship, strengthening the shields. Liara gasped, looking at him with wide eyes. You are linked to it. The ship listens to you as well." Daniel shook his head, terrified. "I don't even know what I'm doing," she whispered. "You don't need to. The crystal knows. Trust it." The enemy craft drew closer, its weapons glowing for another strike. Daniel's chest tightened. He pictured protection, survival, and the ship responded. The shields flared, deflecting the blast. Liara seized the moment, pushing the vessel harder. They broke through the last layer of atmosphere. Fire and cloud faded into the endless black of space. Stars stretched out in every direction. Daniel's breath caught, his eyes wide. We're in space." His voice shook with awe and disbelief. But the chase was not over. The enemy craft followed, its engines blazing. Liara's face hardened. "They will not stop, not until one of us falls." Daniel clenched his fists, fear and anger mixing inside him. He thought of the diner, of the cruel voices mocking Liara, of the hunters who had tried to kill them both. He was no longer just a waiter, not anymore. The glowing mark on his hand flared again. His voice steady now, he whispered, "Then we don't let them win." Liara looked at him, and for the first time there was no fear in her eyes, only trust. "Together," she said softly. Outside, the stars burned brighter, and the chase across the galaxy had begun. The stars stretched endless around them. Daniel sat gripping the edges of his seat, his whole body trembling. The glowing mark on his hand pulsed steadily, like it had a heartbeat of its own. He could hardly believe it. Just hours ago he was serving soup in a diner, and now he was flying through space in a living alien ship, hunted by enemies he didn't even understand. Liara's hands moved quickly over the glowing controls. Her glowing eyes reflected the starlight, calm yet urgent. "The shields won't hold forever. We must fight back." Daniel's chest tightened. "Fight back? I'm not a fighter. I'm a waiter. I don't know how to do this." Liara turned to him, her face fierce but gentle. "The crystal chose you for a reason. It will not abandon you. Trust yourself. Trust your heart." Before Daniel could answer, alarms echoed through the ship. The enemy craft was closing in. Beams of light fired across the dark sky. The shields sparked as energy slammed into them. Daniel felt every strike in his bones. The ship groaned, shuddering under the assault. The mark on his hand burned hotter. Daniel cried out, clutching it. His mind filled with images, not his own. Shapes of weapons, shields, paths through the stars. It was like the crystal was trying to teach him. "I can't," he whispered, but deep inside he knew he had no choice. If he did nothing, they would both die. He stumbled toward the control panel, placing his hand on it. The ship responded instantly. The blue lights glowed brighter. The hum deepened. Power surged through him. He saw the enemy ship in his mind as if it was right before his eyes. Liara gasped. "Daniel, you're linked to the battle system. Use it. Think of what you want to do." Daniel closed his eyes. His heart pounded. He pictured himself protecting Liara, defending the ship, fighting back. Suddenly the vessel's weapons came alive. Bright streams of energy fired from its wings, cutting through the dark. The enemy ship dodged, but not fast enough. One blast struck its side, flames sparking across its hull. Daniel opened his eyes wide, his breath ragged. I did that." Liara smiled faintly, her voice soft. "You see, you are more than you believe." But there was no time to celebrate. The enemy ship spun and fired again. Their vessel shook violently. Daniel stumbled, gripping the wall. The crystal's mark burned hotter, demanding more. The hunter's ship launched smaller drones, black machines with glowing red eyes. They swarmed toward Daniel and Liara's ship. Daniel panicked. "There are too many." Liara's voice was steady. "Do not fear the number. Fear will blind you. Focus." Daniel clenched his teeth. Sweat dripped down his face. He focused on the drones, picturing them breaking apart. The ship obeyed, launching bursts of energy. One by one, the drones exploded in bright flashes. Still, more kept coming. The sky lit with fire and light. Daniel felt his strength draining, his arms heavy, his chest burning. "I can't. Keep this up." Liara placed her hand gently over his, her touch steady, warm. "You are not alone. We fight together." Her energy joined his. The ship flared brighter than before, weapons blazing with power. Together they struck the enemy craft, tearing through its shields. The hunters inside the dark vessel panicked. Daniel could feel their fear through the crystal's link. For the first time they realized the human they hunted was not helpless. He was dangerous. The enemy craft staggered, smoke and sparks trailing behind it. Then it pulled away, engines burning as it fled into the distance. The smaller drones scattered, vanishing into the stars. The silence after the battle was heavy. Daniel collapsed back into his seat, gasping for air. His whole body ached, his hands still glowing faintly. Liara looked at him with awe, her voice soft but full of certainty. "No alien warrior could have done what you just did. You fought with the heart of a guardian." Daniel shook his head, exhausted. "I'm not a guardian. I'm nobody. I was just trying to protect you." Liara leaned closer, her glowing eyes steady on his. "That is why you are different. Power without compassion is nothing. But you fight because you care. That is what makes you strong." Daniel felt a strange warmth inside him, not from the crystal but from her words. For the first time he wondered if maybe he was more than what he had always believed. But before he could speak, the ship's sensors flared again. A warning tone filled the air. Liara's face hardened. "They will return, and next time, they will not underestimate you." Daniel clenched his fists, his fear mixing with a new determination. He no longer felt like only a waiter. He had tasted battle. He had survived. The mark on his hand pulsed with steady light, whispering of power, of destiny. He stared at the stars beyond the viewport, his voice low but firm. "If they want to fight, then I'll give them one." Liara's lips curved into the smallest smile. "The warrior within you has awakened." And in the silence of space, Daniel realized his life was no longer ordinary. He was part of something far bigger, and his kindness had led him to a war he could not walk away from. The battle was over, but the silence in the ship felt heavy. Daniel sat slumped in his chair, his chest still rising and falling with exhaustion. The glowing mark on his hand had dimmed, but it still pulsed faintly, reminding him of the power that now lived inside him. Liara checked the controls, her glowing eyes serious. We bought time, but not victory. They will come again. Daniel rubbed his temples, his voice low. Why? Why are they after you? Why are they after me now? Liara hesitated, her hands pausing over the glowing panels. She turned to him, her face pale, her eyes filled with something heavier than fear. Because you are no longer just human. The crystal has bound you to an ancient oath, and they will do anything to break it. Daniel frowned, confusion clouding his mind. An oath? What does that even mean? Liara leaned closer, her voice dropping like a secret she had never spoken aloud. Long ago, before my people, and before many of the stars were even mapped, there was a race called the First Guardians. They protected the galaxy, not with power alone, but with compassion and courage. They were not feared, they were trusted. Their symbol was the same mark that now burns on your hand. Daniel stared at his palm, the glowing scar shaped like a circle crossed by lines. It pulsed softly, as if alive. His heart raced. You're saying humans were part of them? Liara nodded slowly. Your kind was once among them, but your people vanished, and the galaxy forgot. We thought the blood of the Guardians was lost forever, until the crystal chose you. Daniel's head spun. He tried to process her words, but it felt impossible. He had spent his life serving food, cleaning tables, saving coins. How could he be connected to something so ancient, so powerful? He shook his head. No, I'm just a waiter. I don't even know how to fight. I barely survived back there. Liara's gaze was steady. And yet you did survive. You protected me when others would have sold me for coin. You fought when you could have run. That is why the crystal awakened. That is why they fear you. Daniel's chest tightened. The memory of the hunters came back, the way their leader had looked at him, not with anger, but with something close to recognition. They said, I was dangerous, not because of what I've done, but because of what I could become. Liara's voice grew sharper. Yes, they are not only hunting me, they are hunting you. If they can capture you, they will twist the crystal, turn your compassion into their Wea. Pawn, that is their truth. They fear you because you are hope, and hope is harder to kill than any soldier. Daniel swallowed. His throat felt dry. He leaned back, staring at the endless stars outside the viewport. Hope? He had never been called that before. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared with warning. A ripple of energy filled the cabin, and then a transmission appeared on the screen. The face of the hunter leader flickered into view, his helmet removed, revealing sharp features and glowing eyes. His voice was deep and steady. Human, the hunter said. Do you know what you carry? Do you know the burden that will break you? Daniel clenched his fists. I know enough. You want it because you're afraid of it. The hunter's lips curved into a cold smile. Afraid? No. We want it because it belongs to us. The Guardians failed. They abandoned the galaxy. We were the ones who stepped forward to rule when they fell. And now you rise, a mistake, a shadow of the past. We will correct it, Liara hissed under her breath. Lies. They twist history. They destroyed the Guardians. They did not replace them. Daniel's pulse quickened. His anger built. Maybe the Guardians fell. Maybe humans forgot who they were. But I'm still here. And as long as I live, you won't take this crystal. The hunter's eyes narrowed, but his voice remained calm. We will see, waiter, warrior, whatever you call yourself. You are marked, and that means you cannot escape. The stars themselves will turn against you. The transmission cut out, leaving only silence. Daniel sat frozen. His mind raced with the weight of the hunter's words. His whole life had been small, ordinary, invisible. Now enemies who ruled the stars called him dangerous. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice softer now. Do not let his words break you. They fear you because they see what you could become. He is right about one thing, though. You cannot escape. You must choose who you will be. Daniel stared at his glowing hand. The light pulsed with quiet strength. He felt fear, but also something else. Resolve. If they're afraid of me, then I won't hide. If they want to fight, then I'll show them what a human can do. Liara's eyes softened with pride and sorrow. Then the galaxy will change, because you have chosen. The stars outside seemed brighter, the silence heavier. Daniel had no idea how to win a war against hunters who ruled the galaxy. But he knew one thing: he would not bow. The truth of the enemy had been revealed. And now the destiny of both human and alien rested in his hands. The stars stretched endless and silent. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat, his glowing hand resting on the controls. His mind was heavy with the hunter's words. The truth was out. Humans were once guardians, protectors of the galaxy, and now he carried that burden alone. Liara stood beside him, her glowing eyes watching the stars, her voice soft but firm. The enemy will return, stronger than before. They will gather fleets to crush you. They will not allow hope to rise again. Daniel exhaled slowly. His chest ached with fear. He had never asked for this destiny, never asked to carry power or fight battles beyond his understanding. He was just a simple waiter who gave food to a hungry stranger, yet he knew there was no going back. "I don't know if I can do this," he whispered, his voice trembling. Liara touched his shoulder, her hand light but steady. "That is why you can. Power without doubt becomes pride. Pride destroys. But you fight because you doubt, because you care. That is the heart of a guardian." Daniel looked at her, at the small alien girl who had walked into his diner and changed his life. He thought of the kindness that had begun all this. He thought of the crystal burning in his hand, of the hunters who feared him, and of the galaxy that might need him. Before he could answer, the ship's alarms flared. The viewport filled with light. A fleet of dark ships emerged from hyperspace, hundreds of hunter vessels surrounding them. Their engines glowed red, their weapons armed. Daniel's heart pounded, his throat went dry. "We can't fight that, it's impossible." Liara's eyes narrowed, her voice calm even as the ships closed in. "Not with weapons alone, but with the crystal, with what it awakens in you, we still have a chance." Daniel placed both hands on the panel. His glowing mark flared brighter than ever. Heat surged through his veins, filling him with fire. He felt the enemy fleet pressing down, but he also felt something else. Whispers, voices in the light, not just his own. For a moment, he saw visions. Humans long forgotten. Guardians who once walked the stars. Their voices echoed in his mind. "Stand. You are not alone. Our oath lives in you." Daniel gasped. The fear inside him cracked, replaced with something deeper. He clenched his fists, his voice steady now. "Then we fight, not just for us, but for everyone they've crushed." The hunters opened fire, beams of light streaking across space. Daniel's ship shook, but the crystal flared, spreading a shield across the vessel like a second skin. The blasts shattered against it. Daniel closed his eyes, focusing. The ship responded to his will, weapons roaring with light. He unleashed volleys of energy, striking the nearest hunters. Their ships exploded in brilliant bursts, debris scattering into the stars. Liara gripped the co-pilot's controls, her voice fierce. "Together, Daniel, together." They moved as one, weaving through the enemy fleet. Daniel's mind linked with the crystal, every thought becoming action, every spark of courage turning into firepower. The hunters fell back, ships breaking under the force of his will, but still they came, wave after wave. The leader's massive vessel emerged from the darkness, larger than the rest. Its cannons glowed with deadly power. The hunter's voice boomed through the comms. "You are nothing, a shadow of a fallen race. You cannot win." Daniel's eyes blazed with light, his voice thundered back. "I am human, and I will not bow." The crystal responded with a roar of energy. His ship surged forward, blazing with power. He struck the leader's vessel head-on, beams of light cutting through its shields, tearing through metal. The enemy flagship cracked, fire spilling across its hull. Liara's eyes filled with awe as the ship broke apart in flames. The rest of the fleet scattered, their courage shattered. Without their leader, they fled into the void, leaving only silence behind. Daniel slumped in his seat, gasping, his body weak, but his heart steady. The glow in his hand faded to a soft pulse. Liara leaned close, her voice soft and trembling. "You saved us. You saved more than me. Tonight you reminded the stars that humanity still breathes." Daniel looked out at the galaxy, his chest rising with pride and disbelief. He whispered, "I was just a waiter." Liara shook her head, smiling faintly. "You were never just a waiter. You were always meant for the stars." The silence of space wrapped around them, but it was no longer empty. It was alive, filled with the promise of a new beginning. Daniel closed his eyes, knowing his life would never be small again. The galaxy had found its guardian, and his destiny was only beginning.